Welcome back, everybody. The Power Performance is presented by Courtyard by Marriott. 646-CBS-1000. Phone number to call here. Ian Eagle, Jason Horowitz. College football, that's the topic at hand. And one of the best in the business, analyzing the sport, he is Trev Alberts from CSTV, and he joins us here on the Power Performances. Trev, it's Ian and Jason. How you doing?
Doing well, guys. How are y'all?
Doing very well. Great to talk to you. Let's get right into it. And let's face it, you're either in one camp or another camp when it comes to the Ohio State-Michigan game. And I'm not even asking about right now who's going to win the football game. To me, the question is, if Ohio State is to lose this game, there are those out there that believe, well, there could be a rematch for the national championship. Do you fall on the side of, yes, you can envision a rematch, or no, that's silly talk, we shouldn't even be discussing the potential of a rematch for a national championship?
Guys, my humble opinion would be that I think it's silly talk. I would certainly like to think. I mean, one of the main premises of why we supposedly cannot have a playoff and determine a true champion on the field is that, you know, it would sort of make the regular season not mean as much. So obviously, if you play the regular season and let's say Michigan beats Ohio State, and then you want to have a rematch later, you've just basically put a lot of holes in that argument.
Agreed.
Because now suddenly the regular season doesn't mean anything because you're having it to play again.
Trev, what about Jim Tressel's statement earlier in the week that in order to play for a national championship, you have to win your conference, and obviously the loser of this game will not do that. Nebraska back in, 2001, didn't even make their conference championship game, went to the national championship game. Would that kind of bring up thoughts of that same type of thing?
Absolutely. They went down to the Rose Bowl, didn't even win their own division of their own conference. And so, yeah, I think that should be. And they changed some rules to BCS to try to make sure, guys, it didn't happen again. So, yeah, I think you have to win your own conference at least to get a chance to play for the national championship. But I think there's too many other really good, talented teams out there that would deserve a chance. I mean, Rutgers, if they go undefeated, I don't care what people say. If Rutgers goes undefeated, they're in a Big East conference that's a BCS conference. If they go through, they go on the road, beat West Virginia, you know, I think they ought to have the chance to play for the national championship. If you make the argument that Louisville at number 3, if they would have went undefeated, that they deserve the chance to play for the national championship, how in anybody's right mind can you make the argument that Rutgers, because they started lower in the preseason rankings, if they win the conference and go undefeated and beat Louisville, why they can't then play for the national championship? I think it's, again, one of the flaws of the system. Because Rutgers started the season ranked too low, because all the voters didn't know enough about football to know where to rank them appropriately, they suddenly can't play for the national championship because of where they started. I think that'd be wrong. I think Greg Schiano deserves more, and I think if they go undefeated, they ought to have a chance to play for the championship.
Hey, Trev, you were out at Air Force this weekend. You saw Notre Dame play, and you saw this team basically dominate Air Force. My question is for this. If Notre Dame goes out to USC and wins, obviously assuming they beat Army this coming weekend, if they go to USC and win there, what are your thoughts about the fact that Notre Dame could pass Michigan, even on the fact that Michigan beat Notre Dame at South Bend by 26 points?
I think it would be a travesty, and I think it would be, once again, another reason for everybody to talk about college football, make fun of our system and how we determine our champion. I really do. I mean, Michigan dominated that game. It wasn't even as close as the final score indicated, 47-21. I mean, they could have put up 60 on them. But I think the point is this. I did that game, and although it looked on paper like they dominated Air Force, when you go back and look at the numbers, Air Force had more yards than Notre Dame. And there are serious holes in that Notre Dame team. I think they have a terrific offense. They have a great quarterback. They have great weapons. They are not great defensively. They simply are not a great defensive team. They've made progress in special teams. They're completely inconsistent. And Coach Weiss would tell you. I asked Coach Weiss on a sit-down interview the very question. I said, Coach, you pretend you're a sports commentator right now. If Rutgers goes undefeated, do they deserve a chance to play in the national championship over every other one-loss team? And he said, absolutely. He said, Rutgers, they're a BCS conference. If they're undefeated, they deserve, even over us, a one-loss team, they deserve to get to play as a champion. So I think that even some of the coaches, although they lobby for their teams, you have to, if you're looking at the bigger picture in college football, you can't have undefeated teams from BCS conferences consistently passed, as Auburn did a few years back, up for the national championship game. It just can't happen. This isn't the system that we can play by. So, you know, I think when it all comes out, now Rutgers has to beat West Virginia. They may not do that. You know, I mean, it's always a bunch of what-ifs. But undefeated teams in BCS conferences, in my opinion, ought to have a chance to play for the national championship.
Trev, back to Ohio State and Michigan. What are the keys that you'd be looking for in this game? Ohio State playing at home, Michigan going on the road, and we know that for the Michigan program, this is it. This is their chance. Ohio State's been there. They've been on the big stage of the national platform. Michigan has a chance to inject themselves really into that picture. Your thoughts going into this matchup?
Well, first of all, I think it's been remarkable what Lloyd Carr's done. I mean, remember last year, everybody wrote this team off. They had a terrible loss in the bowl game against Nebraska. They stumbled. People were talking about whether Lloyd Carr should continue to be the head coach there. So they have this remarkable turnaround that players commit themselves. They turn the defense around. With all that being said, I'm not trying to be a pessimist here, but I have to tell you, in my opinion, I really don't think this game's going to be a great game. I think Ohio State is a lot better football team. Everybody talks about Michigan's defense, and rightfully so. They've gotten a lot better. They're number one run defense in the country. But you overlook the fact that Ohio State's defense, in my opinion, is better than Michigan's defense. They lose 9 starters from last year. The reason they're better is they get more turnovers. They're number one in scoring defense, less than 8 points a game. So I think you overlook the fact that Ohio State has a better defense. I think Ohio State has the best offensive line in the Big Ten. They have the number one guy for the Heisman Trophy in Troy Smith, who in the biggest of games is the best he's ever been. And you look at Michael Hart, who's a terrific running back at Michigan. His 2 games against Ohio State's defense, he had 61 yards as a freshman, 15 yards last year. So I don't think it's going to be quite the game that everybody thinks it's going to be. I think it's great. It's the end of the year. It's a great rivalry and all that. I think at the end of the day, playing at home, I think Ohio State wins this game fairly easily. And I think all the talk about whether, should there be a rematch, it'll be mute because I don't think that that Michigan is going to play all that well against Ohio State.
All right, to get on the horn with Trev, 646-CBS-1000, 646-227-1000. Don't forget the first 2 callers today taking home those $50 gift certificates to CBSSportsStore.com. Trev, we're going to hit the emails here. Kirk from East Wenatchee in Washington, he wants to know who plays in the NCAA championship game and wins, why? That's what he says. Trev, what do you say?
Well, obviously, with the system that we have with the BCS, we're going to try to get the 1 and number 2 teams matched up. And, that's been the premise of the whole deal. So, obviously, I think Ohio State's going to beat Michigan. And so I think Ohio State's going to play in the national championship game. I think that Rutgers is going to lose at West Virginia. And so I think you're going to have that 1-loss team. That being said, I think it's going to come down to USC and Florida. And so I think USC obviously has to finish strong, and they have a difficult game against Notre Dame. But I think it's going to be close because Florida has one of the nation's toughest schedule. They just haven't played great, and they still have the SEC championship game. So right now, I would say Ohio State playing USC for the national championship.
Trev, devil's advocate here. What about Boise State? I understand what you're saying regarding the Big East and the BCS conferences. Does Boise State at least belong in this conversation? The fact that we've gone this long, we haven't even brought them up.
No, not in my opinion.
All right. I think, you want to think about it, Trev, a little more. No.
Hold on. Let me think about it again. No.
No.
Look, I think they are a terrific program, and I think they stand for everything that's right about college football. I really do. And I know you can point to the fact that, Oregon State beat USC, and by the way, they just blew out Oregon State earlier.
Exactly.
So
yes,
I understand all that. But here's the difficulty. They have the 86th ranked difficulty of schedule. Their schedule ranking's 86. So the point is this. Could Boise State on any given Saturday line up and play with a BCS conference school? Absolutely. There's no doubt about it, and I believe that they could win. But I still don't think that's fair when the system we have now in these BCS conferences where they're having to do it week in and week out. That's the argument about the SEC, is that it's one thing, you look at the Big Ten, and I'll even submit this. You look at Michigan. So far, they've essentially played 1 game. They played Notre Dame.
Agreed.
Okay?
Yep.
And then they're going to play a second game against Ohio State. That's a 2-game schedule. Okay, if you look at the SEC and you look at Florida, they had a 6-game schedule plus the SEC championship game. It's so much more difficult to do it week in and week out. So could Boise State play 1 game and play for a championship? Yeah. But should they benefit from the fact that they don't have to play a bunch of games? No. And so that's why I think it's great that they have a chance to get into a BCS game. but not to play for the national championship.
Trevor, I think you're leaving one Big Ten team out there, which would be Wisconsin. It's a one-loss team that gets no credit whatsoever.
Trevor,
I think they deserve credit, and I think Brett Bielema, along with Greg Schiano, deserves credit for Coach of the Year. But that's a different story. All right, we're going to go to the phone calls here, Trev. Joe in California, he's got a question for you. Joe, you're on the horn with Trev Alberts. Go ahead.
Trev, how are you?
Good.
I know you played at Nebraska, and they've been kind of down the last few years. When do you see a return to prominence for Nebraska?
That's a good question. You know, it depends on what your definition of return to prominence is, because I think, you know, from where they were a couple years ago, I think they're on track. I mean, I think they've changed the culture of the program, and I think sometimes you forget how difficult that is. So recruiting has gotten better. I think the one thing that they need to improve on, and I think Notre Dame has to too, is its consistency. I mean, there are times when Nebraska offensively looks unbelievable. They've turned the corner, they're throwing, they're running, they're dictating to the defense. Their wide receivers are catching difficult balls, and they've got these terrific running backs, you know, Marlon Lucky and the rest of them. And then defensively the next week they give up 600 yards. And so, you know, it's a consistency thing. From week to week, they haven't always been consistent, and there have been every year in the Bill Callahan era, there have been games that they lost that they had no business losing. And I think when you're really there as a great program, you look at Ohio State. Now, they might have a close game now and again, but Ohio State takes care of business week in and week out. They don't have those periodic duds where you look back and say, oh, what was that? And so that's the model of consistency that great programs has. Nebraska's getting there, but I don't think they're quite there yet.
Trev, one last quick one. Heisman watch. Does Troy Smith get this award with a win here over Michigan?
Absolutely. I think that Troy is head and shoulders above Brady Quinn right now. I think he's been consistent, and as I pointed out, nobody has been bigger in the biggest of games. I mean, he had that huge game against Texas, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. Historically against Michigan the last 2 years, big numbers, no turnovers. So I think in the biggest of games, Troy Smith has come through, and obviously he's got a lot of talent around him, but I think people have missed the fact that not only passing but running, I think he's clearly the number one guy for the Heisman. And if he beats Michigan, it's over. If they lose to Michigan, then I think it tightens up a little bit. I think he'll still win it unless he has a 5-interception type day.
Trevor, we're going to let you out of here on this. One quick question. What are you more excited for, the game this weekend or to be the special guest host in 2 weeks on this show?
Yes. Good question.
Well, that is
You're sitting right here where Ian sits in 2 weeks.
Well, you know, I could never live up to Ian. So I'd have to tell you this. I am more excited about this weekend Ohio State-Michigan game.
Well, Trev, you're a
fair
giver.
enough, Trev.
Trev, you're the best. We appreciate it, bud. We'll talk to you down the road.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Trev Alberts from CSTV joining us. Always comes with opinions and obviously very knowledgeable when it comes to college football. And, hey, I happen to agree with him. I think this idea of Michigan-Ohio State playing again is a farce. What's the point? The point is to see the best games. The point is to get everybody involved. If there's another team out there that qualifies and deserves it, let's see another team in the national championship picture. I recognize these two teams have to play each other in the Big Ten. But Trev made a great point. The SEC, they're killing one another throughout the season.
Well, my only problem is let's see what happens throughout the rest of the season. Because we could have, as you've seen all last week with constant upsets, you could have more and more upsets, and we could have a lot of teams with 2 losses, and only Michigan and Ohio State with 1 loss, and then maybe the Rutgers with 1 loss. All right, let's hit the phone calls one more time. Remember, 646-CBS-1000, 646-227-1000. My namesake, Jason, he's in New Jersey. I think he wants to talk hockey. Jason, what do you got there?
Well, here's the thing. I live in Jersey. My wife actually goes to Rutgers, but you know what? I couldn't care less.
Come on, Jason. You're not helping the program here. I mean, you're a Jersey guy. Your wife goes to Rutgers, and you have no interest?
The other day when they said Rutgers won, I'm like, Rutgers has a football team?
Oh, come on. It's actually a good stadium. It's a great stadium.
I'll take your word for it. But I was watching last night the Rangers-Devils game. Now,
of
what
course.
about that?
That's more important in your life right now, Rangers-Devils.
Oh, come on. Rangers, 3 goals, 90 seconds, first place. Come on.
Did you see the Jaromir Jagr goal though? It was like a Hail Mary loft pass that just happened to get over Martin Brodeur's shoulder. It's not like a slap shot that blew right by him. It was a mistake goal.
It almost looked like it touched the glove. I don't know.
All right, well, fair enough. But those two teams are tied for first place in the division. And, it is a battle that goes back and forth, and it's a good rivalry. And last year, the Devils finally beating the Rangers in the playoffs.
We'll see it. I'm down on
It's college football time. It's end of November. It's not hockey time.
He lives in New Jersey. His wife goes to Rutgers. Come on. Give it up. Just give a little credit where credit is due. That's all we're asking.
All right, Ian, let's stay with college football. Let's go to just off the table. Things that didn't quite make the show, but by virtue of not making the show, they're making the show. This was my number one here. Mike Stoops, the head coach of Arizona. 4 straight games in November, this man has beaten, or at least 4 straight games against ranked opponents. His Wildcats have beaten those teams, including last Saturday against number 8 Cal, 24-20. Mike Stoops, brother of Bob Stoops, having another good year, and Arizona has a chance to go to a bowl game this season.
Just off the table, sticking with college football, Arkansas and Houston Nutt. He was on the hot seat just a year ago, and now Arkansas has revitalized the program. This was known as a football school, a great football school, and now the Razorbacks are at least back into the picture when it comes to big-time college football. Houston Nutt, I think he's off the hot seat. There could be an extension in the making for one of the great names in all of sports, Houston Nutt. I just like saying that, Houston Nutt.
There was a headline earlier this week, or last week in the Arkansas papers, Nutt decides to go with Dick. Casey Dick is his quarterback. That was one of the headlines.
Check, please.
All right, let's keep going on to the next off the table here. We're going back to the NFL, and Muhsin Muhammad, a tremendous performance against the New York Giants. That touchdown between 2 receivers, a great performance for Muhsin Muhammad. He is really helping Rex Grossman, and Rex had 3 touchdowns of his own, all of them in the second half, and Muhsin Muhammad, another good performance.
And sticking with the NFL, the Pittsburgh Steelers, are they dead yet? Probably. I don't see the Steelers making a playoff run, but they still have some wins left on the table. Just off the table this week, Willie Parker, outstanding effort. The Steelers' running game had been non-existent of late. He exploded against the New Orleans Saints, and Parker and the Steelers trying to get back to respectability. It's really been a bit of a conundrum for this Steeler team. An ominous start with Ben Roethlisberger and the motorcycle accident. That was not a good sign for the Steelers, and they just haven't really recovered from all of that.
No. And our last off the table, it's the rumba, it's the cha-cha, it's Emmitt Smith in following the shoes of Jerry Rice. And tonight you will find out if Emmitt Smith takes down AC Slater and Mario Lopez. Well,
yes.
Being the same person in Dancing with the Stars, one of those guys will win the show. Jerry Rice, he didn't win last year, I don't believe.
No, he didn't win. And you know what? I think really we should have gone the other way with Mario Lopez just off the table. He actually played AC Slater on Saved by the Bell. And
heck of a football player.
He was a wrestler. Really, his main sport was wrestling in high school, if you might recall. To me, that's athletics.
I think he was going to get a scholarship to Iowa on the show.
He was very good.
I watched the show. That's right up my alley.
You're like big Kelly Kapowski stalker.
All right, let's go to our top performances of the week. And, this week we're pretty much at a standstill. We have the same one, and how could you not go with this one? Rutgers football is on the map, folks. The Scarlet Knights, undefeated, 9-0, 3 games left. They go to Cincinnati this week. They play Syracuse at home. Then they go to West Virginia. If they run the table, I think Rutgers deserves, not should be, but deserves to be in the national championship game. I'm not saying they're going to get there. They deserve it.
The fact that the Rutgers football program is now relevant, to me, that's the biggest story of all. Because to think where this program was when Greg Schiano took over, yes, they are the #1 power performance of the week. Schiano in particular, I don't know if he's going to leave. My sense is that he will stay. He's a Jersey guy, went to Bucknell, coached at Rutgers, moved on to the NFL, defensive coordinator at Miami. I think Miami will come calling. There's no doubt in my mind. But Schiano is being well compensated. They stuck with him. Even though the wins weren't coming, they stuck with him. The loyalty was there from the Rutgers standpoint. I think the loyalty should be now given back from Greg Schiano to Rutgers.
I would agree to say that. All right, let's go to our top predictions here. And, this week we basically have point, counterpoint.
We do.
My point, Michigan defense. Trev was talking about how Ohio State's defense is so much better. And I'm not going to disagree with him, which is why I think my power performance is the most crucial. I'm not saying Michigan's going to win. But if they do, it's going to be because of the defense and this man right there, Lamar Woodley, who is being projected as a top first-round draft pick, defensive end, stands up at linebacker. if he has a big game and this Michigan defense, they're not going to stop Troy Smith. If you can control Troy Smith, they're going to win the football game, and he's going to have a big game to do so.
I know we're wearing similar outfits here, and that's not going to continue, by the way. We're going to have to talk about this. Are you wearing a Michigan jersey underneath that shirt?
No, I was going to bring it for you to wear this week.
Are you wearing it, seriously?
No, it's not on it today. I had nothing.
The guy's from Michigan, okay? Take what he says with a grain of salt. I have
You're
no
not
bias.
from New Jersey.
I have no bias whatsoever when it comes to this game. I trust the experts. Trev Alberts, college football expert. What did he say? Ohio State. What do I say? Ohio State. Antonio Pittman, the running back. Pittman doesn't get a lot of attention because of the play of Troy Smith, but one of us is going to be right, one of us is going to be wrong. Sadly for Jason, he's going to be wrong. And we're not even going to have a chance to talk about it next week. That's the worst part. Antonio Pittman will be your power performer of the week.
No, we won't have a chance to talk about it. I'm going to have to call you during Thanksgiving dinner and
don't do that.
Ask you about it.
Lose my number, by the way. Calls have been coming a little too fast and furious.
Folks, thanks so much for all the calls today. The Power Performance is presented by Courtyard by Marriott. And don't forget, all throughout the week, email us right below here on this video player. For Ian Eagle, he does look like George Clooney. I'm Jason Horowitz. Have a great Thanksgiving. Enjoy your turkey day. Spend the time with the family. See you in a couple weeks. Take care.